Hello and welcome to Stretford, Paddock. My name is Joe, that is Ronaldo, and this is the preview for Manchester United versus Lens? What we're going with?
However way you see it.
However we see it, Lens. Right, let's get into it then. Interesting game this, isn't it? Because theoretically, you know, we're back from the American tour. Man United, these are kind of those preseason games where the main tour is over, but they stick a couple in for whatever reason. But actually, as we can see there, we talk a bit about momentum. This is not a must win, but like you want a bit of something going into the season. It's become a bigger game than we thought it might, hasn't it?
I think pre-season is quite an interesting dynamic anyway, because as fans, when you look at pre-season games, or even when rivals look at your pre-season games, if you win all your games, then everyone's like, it's all yours. It's just pre-season. We need to see it when we're actually playing competitive games. But if on the flip side, when you're losing your games, then there's also an overreaction thinking we don't look too good, we look kind of disjointed, is things really meshing the way you want it to? But so, I don't know, I think you should just be somewhere in between. But ideally, I wouldn't want to go into the Wolves game losing 4 or 5 on a bounce in pre-season, because then you've got to think about what it does for confidence in terms of the players. And then Ten Hag might have to start rethinking his tactics and kind of rethinking where things kind of rejig as well. And you'd rather have a kind of like settled approach going into the game where everyone's confident, everyone's firing, because I think the start of the season is going to be so important. And with what we've basically said throughout the pre-season anyway, with Liverpool going to be better, Chelsea should be better, City will be there or thereabouts again, Newcastle, Arsenal, every single game is going to be important, and United can't afford to be off the ball at all if you want to kind of aspire to where you want to be next season. So I think it's a huge game. And it will also show us, obviously when Hojlund does eventually play, what kinks need to be ironed out, because I think there's a few still.
Well, that's the thing that the next thing I wanted to talk about is we've seen United struggling so far in pre-season with goals, and Hojlund isn't necessarily a prolific striker so far in his career in terms of, you know, a goal a game or anything like that, but he is a number 9, and we've not played a single minute with a number 9. I mean, maybe a couple of academy players, Hugo and McNeil, getting a couple of minutes here and there. But Martial hasn't played a single minute, and he's currently the only first team number 9 at the club. That is a big concern, isn't it? How much do you think Hojlund is needed in this squad, and what are you sort of expecting from him? I think, just to clarify, I don't think he's expected to start this game.
No.
But there have been rumours that he's going to be maybe announced, maybe even on the pitch before the game. And obviously, we spoke before the preview for the Dortmund game, not you and I, but on in America, about United's lack of goals. And even though we scored a couple, it still felt as though those chances were being put wide. Anthony was missing chances. That number 9 area is a concern, isn't it?
No, it is. Just even beyond the goal scoring, it's just when you watch us play, we don't seem to have that focal point. Is the problem. Obviously, you've seen Sancho play false 9. You've seen Rashford move from being where he's probably best, which is left wing, to playing up front, which might even still materialise throughout the season, with Hojlund being a little bit unproven. And I don't think anyone's expecting him to be like a world-class number 9 starting up front week in, week out. We've got to basically be patient with him. I know the fee might dictate like kind of pressures being different, but I think just him being an actual striker, like you said, is going to help, because you've talked about Anthony, you've talked about Sancho, you talked about even Rashford at times, where you think too often in games we get in opportunities and we get chances, and there's just that lack of like conviction and there's not like I was going to say clinicality, but that's not a word, but like just clinicalness, where we need to be more ruthless if we are going to like take that jump up. Because I think there's too often last year where we were getting caught out in games where there'd be a chance on the other end and they'd go and score on the other end, and we'd probably get 10 shots and goal, the opposition would get 5, but then it'd be 1-1, and it's just those kind of things will bite you in the ass. I think if you do get a striker on a number 9 that does score goals, even if they're on the fringes of the game, they can pretty much, it's different in football. I think goals do win games rather than defensively, so getting a striker and getting Hojlund in will be important. And I think with better players around him than he had at Atlanta, I think his goal scoring numbers could definitely skyrocket.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because I think Rashford stepped it up last season, which is why we saw the goals go up, not just from the season before, obviously, but even his best previous years. There was a good chunk better in terms of goal scoring. And the way I think of it is a striker that's going to try and push a defender out of the way and then score. Rashford's got a little bit of that to his game where he didn't used to, but he's still not really that type of player. Martial looks less and less like that type of player. Weghorst isn't capable of that because he's too slow, or wasn't capable of that. Hojlund is that sort of player where you could imagine him going shoulder to shoulder with a defender, pushing him out of the way and getting in there. And I know that's not the only thing strikers do, but that's what top strikers do, where you think, oh shit, they've won that, they've done that. Whereas Martial seems to only be able to score free shots on goal with the whole space in front of him. Too often he gets closed down or he'll get pushed off the ball, and you just think Sancho's another one where you can't see him beating a defender and scoring goals. Hojlund actually will have a bit of that about him, won't he?
Do you know what Hojlund's actually going to bring that we've not had in the forward area for a long time in terms of striker? His legs. Yeah. Obviously, we've seen it when Rashford does play there. Obviously, he's got the speed. He can run channels, etc. But then you've got Hojlund, which he has even more of that youthful exuberance, where he's a tireless runner. He presses aggressively off the ball. When people have done analysis on him, they basically said that he probably is a little bit rash in terms of the way, but that can be coached as well. But he is someone that does play with a bit of that passion, and he does run. And when you've got the likes like Martial and then even like Sancho playing number 9, you've got Weghorst, and then we've had the likes of Cavani and Ronaldo. All the strikers we've added been kind of a different profile to Hojlund in terms of not having that kind of energy and legs up front. And now we do have it. So it's going to be exciting to see. And I think one of United's issues is when we have bought young players or brought young players in, or even players even a little bit older, we very rarely develop them. They very rarely improve at Manchester United, and that's why I think United kind of went towards doing that kind of stopgap route of buying proven players late in their career. But we just got to hope that Hojlund's different, where you buy him and then hopefully he hits the ground running, but he can become that world-class striker where we look back and think 75 million euros or whatever, 85 million euros, bargain.
Let's talk about predicted 11th then. I'll let you go first. Show me who you think is going to be in that starting 11.
Well, obviously the game's back to back.
It was kind of
it's a tricky one of knowing where. Like, I think it's not the exact same as the Wrexham and Real Madrid dynamic where it was basically two split 11s. I think it'd be kind of merged, but I've gone for quite a strong team to begin with anyway, with a couple of changes. I've gone for Onana in net. I've gone left back Luke Shaw, Martinez, Lindelof partnering instead of Varane, and I've gone Dalot right back instead of Wan-Bissaka. I've gone for the midfield three, which will probably start against Wolves, which is Mount, Casemiro and Bruno. I've gone for Sancho right wing because I think he's shown more than Antony so far this pre-season. I've gone for Rashford up front, and I've gone for Garnacho on the left because even against Real Madrid, I thought Garnacho was sharp in some of his little cameos that he had in pre-season so far, so I've gone for him again. And I think back in Old Trafford, excitement, I think Garnacho brings that.
Yeah,
so I've gone for him left wing.
Pre-season for him. It's not pre-season in terms of what he's done, but his momentum and his stock is growing, isn't it? Garnacho? And
having a better pre-season than he did last season. Last season he had a little bit of disciplinary issues and they punished him, but now he seems to be maturing, and we need to kind of mould him into being the player that we think he can be, because I think Garnacho's ceiling's quite high. Yeah. But that's the team I've gone for, which is quite strong. Couple of arguable positions, but
yeah, it's hard. I think the main moving on to my team then. So I've gone very strong as well, and the main reason I've picked a strong team is because, and this is just very vague and unfounded detective work, but on the poster for the two games, the players on the poster for the Dublin game, the Bilbao game, I think it's Lindelof and I think Malacia and players like that, like sort of second team players. I don't think it's going to be academy and first team like we saw, like you said, against Wrexham. I think it'll be maybe the team that played the 60 minutes against Dortmund, against Bilbao, and maybe the first team against Lens here. So I've gone Onana, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. Varane used to play for Lens as well, didn't he? so I think he'll probably get a game. And then we've got Mount, Casemiro, Fernandes, same as yours. And then front three, I've gone Garnacho as well, but I've put Anthony in. And then Rashford up front. It's hard to know in the front. I don't even know who Ten Hag's first choice front three is at the minute. Obviously, not including Hojlund. But I don't know. Is it Sancho down the middle, Rashford on the left?
I literally think now with Hojlund and Martial back in the mix, honestly, it could be 7, 8, maybe even 9 different iterations of the front three we can see this season. Because even before we went on camera, you thought that we'd see Mount on the left sometimes, you'd see Bruno on the right sometimes. It's going to be. I think that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I think it's
a good problem to have,
especially when you're playing to a system. Yeah. I think when you in the past, football generally was a little bit more go out there and enjoy yourself, work hard. It's slightly more key, like phrase-based coaching. Hard work and first to the ball and don't let it bounce and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. But now, when things are so tactical and so, finely tuned, I think you can have players doing the job. It's like learning lines for a play, rather than go out and do sort of improv. It's like you can play Hamlet, you can play this, you can play that, and you can just remember each other's lines. You can do that job. So I think Mount on the left occasionally will work. Bruno on the right occasionally will work.
I think that's facts. I think I said to Steele on a podcast actually where I think the game's become more like that. What you said, where it's become more systematic and tactical, even more so than individual. So I think managers and the way that they kind of set out their teams and the positions, and you've got the inverted fullbacks, and you've got everyone being almost positionless. It does seem as though you're allowed to put players in different areas and different positions where not necessarily there's a need for an individual to be stapled as a right winger or stapled as a left winger or stapled as a striker. And one problem that kind of alleviates with players being versatile as well is that it can help with the injuries, because I think we've gone through it a lot as in the past couple of seasons where there's one injury to a key player and everything kind of falls to pieces. Whereas if someone gets injured and there might be no wingers available, you can put Bruno there, you can put Mount there, etc. And I think that's going to be vital.
I think the days of people still have talismans, obviously, but someone like a Paul Pogba who pretty much every time he goes on the pitch, he does the Paul Pogba role, doesn't he? He does what he does. He's not a role player, he's a character player almost. And he does what he does, and I think he's a great player and he can do everything. But at times for United, especially, you watch him, you think you're not doing the thing you should be doing. You're just doing yourself. And
a luxury player.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on and talk about the opposition a little bit. Lens, who are surprisingly to me and maybe to some people at home, finished second by 1 point to PSG last season. They were literally a point off them. They had the best defence in the league, only conceded 29 goals in 38 games.
And lost the fewest games.
They had a phenomenal season. We were just talking before, Luis Openda was their top striker or top scorer. Yeah. Just sold him to RB Leipzig, so they're going to be slightly weaker. But this isn't a walk in the park, is it? They're a good team.
No, it's not a walk in the park at all. They were very, very strong last season. I think they were quite decent in Europe as well. They had Luis Openda, who was obviously, I think he kind of burst onto the scene when he played for Belgium in one of the last major competitions. Yeah. And he was kind of bright up front, he looked better than Lukaku, and then he's followed that up by having an exceptional season where I think he scored over 20 league goals last season in League One. And then that's how he kind of got his move to Leipzig. So they definitely are weaker. But they're still, I think, 68 goals scored, 29 goals conceded, only losing 4 games and finished 1 point behind PSG. Won't just be down to one player. No. So I think as a general team and the way they're set up, they will be quite strong, and this won't be a walk in the park at all. And United are going to have to be firing, otherwise it could be 4 defeats in a row. Yeah, and the manager Frank Heise, I'm not exactly sure how I pronounce it. He's got the trajectory of someone that you could see him getting a big job. No offence to Lens, but he's 52, but he's almost in that Ten Hag mould where he's 52, but this is his first big job. So before this, I'm just looking here, he managed Lorient B, he managed Lorient as assistant and then as a caretaker. Then he went to Lens B, and then now he's their first team manager. So this is his first big job for a top team.
And he's obviously done exceptionally in the couple of years that he's been there. You could see him going and taking a step up if he wants to. But yeah, exciting young manager, youngish, or maybe exciting manager at the start of his career, shall we say, rather than young. And a team that isn't to be overestimated. It's unfortunate as well, this team, because they're the sort of team where we've just said how good they are. They are actually genuinely a good team, but you get no credit for beating them, and you get absolutely battered if you lose to them, don't you?
There's exactly. This is, on the face of it, everyone's going to be like, Lens, how do you draw against them? How didn't you beat them?
Yeah.
But there'll be like no perspective about where they finished, how well they've been playing, how Frank Hayes has him structured. There'll be none of that. It'll just be like, Manchester United, Lens, should only be one result.
And they like a sort of 3-4-3, 3-5-1-2 type formation as well. So they're doing some interesting stuff over there. And it'll be, I think, actually probably a good game to watch and see how United come up against a team that is very, like you said, structurally sound. With all that being said, as Jay Marty would say, give me a score prediction for the game.
I'm going... I think we've looked very weak defensively on the transition.
Yeah.
In pre-season.
A lot of like one-on-one.
Yes, a lot.
Defenders sprinting back to their own goal.
Not plus one at all sometimes in defensive transition. So I think we probably will concede again. I am going to go for quite a high scoring, entertaining game actually.
Nice.
Where I think United kind of cash in on some of the XG that we've lost, but we also still concede too many chances and concede a couple. So I'm going to go for 3-2.
3-2, very nice. Yeah, I'm gonna go for a similar score again on the assertion that it's the first team playing. If we do see they're under 18s or whatever, then obviously all of that will change. But I think it will be the first team, and I think it will be 2-0 United. I'm confident.
Clean sheet, yeah?
I'm going clean sheet. We need to start keeping clean sheets, and I think Onana deserves a clean sheet because he's put in 2 really good performances and he's conceded 3 goals, which is unfortunate for him. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-0. Give us your score predictions at home. Give us your first team predictions as well. Obviously, we're kind of guessing 2 games in 2 days, but based on the posters and the fact that I think they'll probably want to stay in England now, those first team players, I'm going to go with that first team 11 as well. Thank you for coming on, Ronaldo. Good to see you. Good to be on the tour with you as well.
No, listen. It was a long and fruitful 2 weeks, put it that way.
It was good, wasn't it? Very good. Right, thank you for joining us. Make sure you're here for the watch along as well on Saturday. It's an early kickoff, so don't get caught out by that. We'll be here, Joe McGrath, Jay Marty, and another guest as well, so make sure you check that out. Also, we'll be back tomorrow for the news and for the brew as well, the first one since coming back from America, so make sure you check that out as well. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in a bit.